Welcome to today's lesson on trigonometry, which is very much an introduction to the subject, where we actually want to ask some basic questions. What do these buttons on our calculator, sin, cos and tan, actually mean? We'll also introduce you to the idea of SOHCAHTOA, which is something we will deal with in more detail in further lessons. Right. So what is sin, cos and tan? This is a big question. Well, the first thing is, let's look at a right angled triangle and the names for the various bits that we're going to use in trigonometry. Now, H is the hypotenuse, and that's the longest side. Then A is adjacent, and that's the one that's adjacent to our angle theta. Now, theta could be at either end of the hypotenuse. Now, if theta moves, then the adjacent side moves with it. So the opposite side is over opposite. And remember, adjacent means next to. So the adjacent side is the side that's next to the angle that we're interested in. Now, let's think about what we call the unit triangle. Now, this is where the hypotenuse is a length 1. And when that's the case, then the length of this side opposite is actually sine theta. So say theta was 30 degrees, you put sine 30 into your calculator, it will tell you it's a half. And that's how long that side is. Equally, if you do cos 30, it'll come up with square root 3 over 2. And that's how long that side is. So we can think of cos and sine as lengths. And so what these sine and cos does, it turns an angle and gives you a number. To think of it as a length, not quite right, it's actually a ratio. And the ratio we will look at in more detail later. But now, for simplistically thinking, we can think of sine as the length of that triangle and cos as the length of the other side. And because it's a right angled triangle, you should notice that Pythagoras still works here. So sine squared plus cos squared will always equal 1. And tan is just the ratio of the two sides. And it's defined as sine theta divided by cos theta, or it's the length of O divided by the length of A. So if I know theta, then I can use my calculator to work out the length of the sides O and A. And I can also use my calculator to work out tan theta. So we used the example of sine 30 there, and we could have used any other angle we decided to. So if I know theta, then my calculator can tell me the length of the sides of the unit triangle. So why don't you just practice a few of these now? Get your calculator out, put them in, and just see what it comes up with. Now, some of these are very important, like sine 90, cos 90, sine 180, cos 180. They're either zeros, ones, or minus ones, and those are ones you've got to get used to and hopefully know. So just write these down and pause the video while we do it, because I will, on the next slide, show you the answers. Here are the answers, and I hope that you didn't have any difficulty finding it. So when the angle's 40, the length of the opposite side's going to be 0.643. The side adjacent's going to be 0.766. And the ratio of the two, if we divide one by the other, we're going to end up with 0.839. Notice sine 90 is 1, cos 90 is 0, sine 180 is 0, cos 180 is minus 1. Note that sine can never be bigger than 1, and it can never be smaller than minus 1. It's basically a wave that goes between the two. Now, the inverse function. Now, if I know theta, I can work out the length of the side. Similarly, if I know the side length of the unit triangle, I can work out what theta is using what we call the inverse function. And to get it, say the side length 0.3, Then to get the inverse function on my calculator, you just do shift sign, which will bring up the inverse function. Then you open your brackets, 0.3, close your brackets, press equals, and it will tell you what the angle is. Similarly, you can do exactly the same thing with cos. And also, if you happen to know what the ratio of the two sides is and you know what tan is, then you can do that. So for example, if tan is 2, you just put shift tan, open brackets, 2, close brackets, and then it will tell you what theta is. Finally, can we look at the trig equations? Now we've looked at the unit triangle, and what we're going to look at now in the next couple of lessons is how we use these equations. So we define sine theta as the length of the opposite side divided by the hypotenuse. So it's O over H. And we decide that cos theta is A over H and tan theta is O over A. And because of the way it works, to help you remember it, we come up with SOHCAHTOA, which we can just very simply write onto the computer there, and then you can see what's happening. So what we've got is, we have SO, which is sine OH, K, and we have TOA, which is a useful way to help you remember these equations. And over the next couple of lessons, we'll use this quite extensively. Right. And then finally, on the last slide, if you actually want to have a little video to see how the inverse function works, go on, do another YouTube video. And what we can do is, if you just put in YouTube, then calculator tutorial, inverse trigonometric functions on a scientific calculator, it will show you about in a minute and a bit how to do that. Very nicely done, and saves me the effort of trying to do it. So hopefully you'll be a little bit wiser about what SOHCAHTOA is, and then we can go into the next few lessons and it will make a bit of sense to you. So thank you for listening, and please tune in and listen to the next set of lessons as soon as they are available.